Welcome back guys to another video. In this video I pretty much want to show you how to look for information or key information if you're interested in a particular fund. Some key things that you should look out for is the portfolio objective, the fund details such as, is it a large fund, is it very liquid, what's the MER, what's the currency it's being traded in, its risk rating, which is not always useful but sometimes it's useful, its dividend if that's something you're interested in. That's something I'm interested in, so I am highlighting that, its holdings and where all those holdings are located. In this case I'm interested in ZLB, which is an exchange traded fund. It's not an index fund, which means it doesn't follow an index, and later on we'll actually look at one that follows an index. So you type in the ticker symbol, which is in this case ZLB, and I know that it's offered by BMO, so I click on the website that actually has the information on it. You can always use third-party stuff, but sometimes it's useful to just go directly to the company that offers the ETF. Now I would just scroll to the strategy or objective of the portfolio, and it's all about low volatility. I like low volatility, which means that it doesn't fluctuate as much as the S&P 500, and that's the first thing I look at. I then scroll to something like the fund details, which you could have also gather some of this information above, but I like this little section that BMO has on their website. I would look at the total assets under management, and you can always calculate this by taking this closing price and multiplying it by the units outstanding, which is pretty much all the individual security that persons own, and you'll get this right here. So I am now aware of how large the fund is. It's pretty large. 3.2 billion is a large fund, in my opinion at least, and that's something I would be interested in. A very large fund. Anything over a billion for me is pretty good. I ideally aim for at least 2 billion, so I know that, hey, this is a very large fund, it's unlikely to tank, or be wiped out, that kind of thing. I would then focus on the management expense ratio, because you don't want to be paying too much for a fund, especially when there are cheaper options out there. In my opinion, this is pretty expensive in comparison to some other ETFs, but considering the yield, which is the dividend yield, it's 2.71%. This is not too terrible in my opinion at least. So I'm willing to pay this amount, and who knows, maybe over time this will decrease. The volume is also not bad, which means that if you want to get out of your position quickly, you can, because it's being traded a lot. Well, not a lot, but enough so that you can easily get funds if you so need that. The base currency, which is something important to note, is Canadian dollars, and it's actually rebalanced quarterly, and it pays its dividend quarterly as well. So that's really important for me. Looking at the distribution, the fact that it pays quarterly is not bad, and it's consistent with many other ETFs as well. And it was actually introduced in 2011. So if you want to look at a long-term chart, you can look at the price increase over that period. So I would also look at the risk rating. In this case, they provide us with one. It's low to medium. Sometimes this is useful, other times it's not, but it's good to know that you're not necessarily doing anything too risky with your funds. Something that's important, if you can't be bothered to scroll through all that information, you can always download the ETF sheet, and that would give you, like, faster information. Sometimes it's not as up to date, but this is like a good overview of the fund if you just want to look at it quickly. And this is the performance over the years. So in 2013, for instance, it went up 20.7%, that kind of thing. So let's look. I would then look at what it's actually paying in terms of dividends, and you can find that on the distribution history. The most recent one was actually January 3rd, 2024, and that's 0.28 cents, which isn't bad. You can also look at previous years to get a sense of if it's increasing or decreasing. We see that in 2018 it was 0.2, in 2020 or 0.24, which means that it's increasing over time, which is something very important for me, at least, since long term I would want to ideally live off dividends. We know that it has 51 holdings, and almost all of it is in stocks, and we can look at the holdings to see if these are companies that we actually like. And if you want, you can look at all 51 holdings, but I already know that these are companies that I pretty much enjoy here in the north, so that's something important to look at. And finally, we see that all of it is actually invested in Canada. 19% is in financials, 16% consumer staples, and so on. So those are the things that I would focus on for any fund that I'm interested in, to just kind of give me a general idea of what it is, what is it invested in, how much it pays, what it charges, and so on. So again, I would look at the portfolio objectives, the fund details, and that includes things like the AUM, which is assets under management, the volume, the exchange that it's listed on, the MER, the base currency, how frequent it pays its dividend, the risk rating, its actual dividend, the holdings, and where it's invested in. So let's look at another one that actually tracks an index. In this case, it's SCHD, and I do the same thing. You type SCHD in Google and look for the fund manager. In this case, it is Charles Schwab, and you click on that link and it brings you to their website. Of course, it's a bit different in terms of its layout, but the information you can always dig through and find it. So you immediately recognize that this is significantly cheaper than ZLB. We look at the objective of the fund. We know that it's actually tracking the Dow Jones, so this makes it an index fund. They say it's low cost, and the information is all here, the distributions, the portfolio, if you're interested in that. So it shows you what it's invested in, and show you the amount that is invested, things like that. But sometimes if you don't want to go to the actual fund website, you could look on something like a Stock Unlock, which is a website I recently came across. I tried a free trial, which is something you can do as well, and type the ticker in, and you get some basic information here, the general information, which is the asset under management, which we discussed. It gives you the website link, the date, and other information where it's invested in. I think this is an error, but because we never saw this on BMO website about Bermuda, but it's pretty much, I would say 99% accurate in terms of the information that's presented. And of course, you can look at the dividend information to see, is the dividend increasing over time, is it decreasing over time, that kind of thing. Well, this is actually dividend yield, so the yield itself doesn't really matter, depending on how much it pays per cents, which is what I really focus on. I focus on what it actually pays per per security, not cents. I think I said cents, that's an error. So this is one thing you can look at. I also use Seeking Alpha, which has way more information, and you can always use this if you're interested in it. So yeah, you can always use this, and you go on portfolio. I have several things I have listed here, including ZLB. So if you click on ZLB, it shows you the holdings, the ratings, the dividend history, and several other information, and you can always go on this and play around. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So to recap, you'd focus on the I would look at the portfolio objectives, the fund details, which includes things like the total assets under management, the volume, ensuring that it's very liquid. What exchange it's listed on, is it US or Canadian or whichever market. Look at the MER, is it too expensive, is it affordable, the risk rating, its dividends, and its holdings, because you want to ensure that you're invested in solid companies that grow over time and pay good dividend, if that's something you're interested in. Let me know what you think about this video. If you found it useful, leave your comment below. See you.